Hi loves! Welcome to Food Texture Series Episode 4. In these videos, I show you how to draw various food textures without concentrating on shape or form. Red velvet cake and light coffee foam are the topics for today. As usually, I'm gonna be drawing on smooth Bristol paper and using my alcohol markers Copic Sketch. For the highlights and textures, I'm gonna be using white gel pen Sakura Jelly Roll and white colored pencil by Carandache Luminance. And for the light sketching, I'm gonna be using my graphite pencil and a kneaded eraser. So if you would like to see how to draw these two cool textures, then keep on watching. Now let's start with the red velvet cake. Let's pick colors at first. I'm gonna be using cool reds today. The first color is mid-tone red R35, then dark red R37, and the deepest one is burgundy color R39. So 3 colors of red R35, R37, and R39. And for the white part, I'm gonna be using 3 warm grays, very light W0, then W2 and W4. So 3 warm grays, W0, W2 and W4. These are very light shades. Now let's map out the layers of the cake and the cut edge for the shadowed part. Drawing one vertical line closer to the right side, adding 2 horizontal lines for the layers, and adding slightly tilted lines to the right side. Lifting up the excess graphite with a kneaded eraser. The light is coming from the top left, and let's get coloring. At first, I'm making the base layer for the highlighted part with help of my mid-tone red R35. I'm drawing those edges wiggly to show that moist and crumbly texture. There are several ways of drawing shaded part, and today I'm gonna be showing you the easiest one. I'm just gonna be using color darker than on the highlighted area. So for the shadowed part, I'm gonna be using darker color for the base layer, and this is dark cool red R37. For more painterly look for the shadow, you can make the base layer with violet and then go over with the red. This is another variant to create the shadowed part. And now with the same color R37, I'm making textures on the highlighted part. I'm drawing dots and irregular lines to create the texture. Before deepening the values, I want to color the cream layer. Grabbing my lightest warm gray W0 and filling in the highlighted area. Moving into the shadowed area and grabbing next darker color W2, adding textures on the highlighted area with the same color. Now adding textures on the shadowed area with my darkest warm gray W4. Now let's go back to the sponge layers and add some dimension because now the shadowed and highlighted parts look just the same. Grabbing my darkest red R39 and adding textures on the shadowed part. I'm also adding dots for the crumbles on the cream layer. Adding the darkest textures on the highlighted part with the same color. And now that the shadowed area is dry, I'm going over with this color again. With help of dark red R37, I'm adding those crumbles on the cream layer on the highlighted area. And now with help of my white colored pencil, I'm adding highlighted textures on the highlighted sections. I'm adding dots and irregular motions just like I did with the markers. I'm not adding those textures on the shadowed areas. And now I want to make shadowed parts even darker, so I'm grabbing my darkest red R39 and darkening those areas from the edges. You can also go over with the gray marker over the shadowed area. This will darken and mute the color and make shadow more realistic. And now let's look how this texture can look on an actual illustration. Here's my sketch of a red velvet slice. I've also used cool grays for the sponge, and you can feel the difference with the warm reds on the strawberry. I've used absolutely the same technique, the base layer, the textures and the colors. The only difference, I've added more gloss with help of gel pen on the sponge cake. And now let's move on to the coffee foam. At first, I'm lightly mapping out the areas where the foam is gonna be, making those shapes organic and not uniformed. Lightening the sketch with a kneaded eraser. And now let's pick the colors. The color range is mostly beige and brown, so my lightest beige color is E30. Then slightly darker ochre beige E31. Next is darker ochre E33. So 3 light ochre beige colors, E30, E31 and E33. Next is dark ochre beige color or yellowish brown, E37, and the deepest brown, E39. If you don't have that deep brown, that's okay, you can use dark gray instead. The light is coming from top left as well. Now let's start with the base layer, and at first I wanna lay down the lightest areas. Grabbing my lightest beige color, E30, and going over the highlighted parts. Imagining this coffee with the foam in the cup, so the lightest area will be on the right bottom part near the rim. Then covering the rest of the foam with a bit darker ochre, E31. Adding the slightest shadow with this color on the right bottom part of the edge, softening the transition between colors with the lightest beige, E30. The top left part of the foam will be in the shadow because of the cup rim, so I'm darkening this area with help of my slightly darker ochre color, E33, darkening the edges of the foam where it meets the coffee. Going back to the lighter beige, E31, and blending the transition. I think I already feel the foam. Look how gorgeous colors are. E30s are one of my favorite family colors in the Copics. Now let's draw the coffee surface. I'm grabbing my brown E37 and going over the highlighted part of the coffee. If you don't have the deep brown, you can go ahead and cover the whole area with this brown. And now I'm covering the darkest part with my deep brown. If you don't have that, you can go over with the dark gray. Going back to my brown E37 and softening the transition. Darkening the edges of the foam with the same color and also adding some shadows. Blending this color with E33. Softening the transition with lighter beige color, E31. Refining the shadows and the blends with the beige color, E33. And now the only thing that's missing is bubbles. Grabbing my deepest brown, E39, and making dots on the foam of various sizes. Once again, if you don't have that deep brown, you can go over with the brown you have and then go over with the gray, or just go over with the dark gray. Adding those dots on the whole surface of the foam. And now, to make those bubbles alive, I need to add highlights, so I'm grabbing my white gel pen. As the light source is coming from the top left, I'm putting the highlight on the top left of each dot. Plus, I'm adding C-curved highlights on the top left and bottom right parts of the dots. This goes for the bigger bubbles. For the smaller ones, I'm just adding one highlight on the top left. I even put some highlighted dots with the gel pen without bubbles, right on the foam. And this way I'm going over all of the bubbles. Yes, this is a lot of details, but this is what makes the illustration alive. And now let's imagine that this coffee is in the white or very light cup, and I want to add this light reflection with help of my white colored pencil. Adding this reflection on the bottom right, because the bottom right rim will get the more light and will give the strongest reflection. Refining the foam just a little bit with my E33. And now this coffee foam is ready, and let's see how this can look on an actual illustration. Here I have a coffee cup illustration, but just in a little bit different perspective. But here I used all of the same techniques, the base layer for the foam, then adding bubbles, the coffee color and the reflection. And so our two food textures for today are ready. And now you know how to draw a red velvet cake texture and a light coffee foam texture. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new. If you would like to dive deeper and see real-time and fully narrated tutorials for the illustrations from start to finish, then check on my Patreon page. The link is in the description box. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now!